Hi, I'm Streaky from Streaky.com. Today is Friday, so today is Q&A day. Hi, I'm Streaky. I'm mastering engineer from London. Been mastering for 25 years. If you're new here, please subscribe if you like to know about pro audio equipment, studio stuff, mixing, mastering. I'm a mastering engineer for the last 25 years. High-end stuff, low-end stuff, everything in between. I talk to mix engineers all the time, so I've got loads of knowledge there. I'm really into hi-fi stuff. I'm really into the sound of people's rooms and everything to do with sound in general. So a bit of an audio anorak. Yeah, anything you want to know, then please let me know in the comments and ring the bell. So today is Q&A day. These are questions that I've had from the comments, and let's go with first one is Jacob Harley. Jacob is asking me, new camera. So he's obviously a regular, and no, we haven't got a new camera, but what we've done is we've only got one light. So instead of having 6 lights, we went to one light, and we think that we've got it looking a bit better. What do you think? But basically, it's like plugins and everything else that I say about mastering. Try and cut back and get less, so we kind of took our own advice. One light seems to work better. I like it more. It's a bit more focused. More importantly, this video is the first video that we're doing with a new microphone. So I've got my cash out and I've bought a shotgun mic, so hopefully this is sounding better. What do you think? Let me know. Any other tips or tricks, please let me know. I'm not a cameraman. I'm a sound man, but I'm not a cameraman, so don't know why it took me so long to get a mic, but I'm obviously tight. Another question from Jacob is, what is it about the focals that makes them your mainstay monitor other than the Stormtrooper white colour? Well, obviously the white is going to stay because I like white, weirdly, as you noticed, but the speakers, yeah, they are looking cool. As speakers go generally for my mastering, I'm in a new studio compared to where I used to be at Metropolis. I had a sort of large home studio before that. When I was at the home studio, I really enjoyed, I had a set of BOW 802, so if you go back to the videos from like 9 years ago, you'll see them in the background. They're hi-fi speakers. I really like them, really smooth sounding. I got rid of those when I went to Metropolis. Metropolis had PMCs. I've worked on PMCs in previous incarnations of my life at a place called Soundmasters and Battery, where I was at previous to my home place. Anyway, and PMCs I find are quite hard to listen to for long periods of time. They are great speakers. They're very detailed in the mids and the tops. I find them though just a bit too hard to listen to. I'm mastering different tracks all day for about 10 hours a day, so one after another. I'm listening fairly loud but not overly loud, but you know, when you're listening all day your head's getting pounded. So I find that for me as a mastering engineer, personal choice, I really like a hi-fi sound because it's a smoother top end, it's not as brash and harsh, it's easier to listen to, and basically, I really like focal speakers. I really like the trios. I found them really nice when I reviewed them. I've had the smaller solos before as near fields. Love those. They're great speakers. I had the SM9s as well at another place, but I didn't actually like those as much. They found they were a bit bassy, but that might have been the room that I was in, so I couldn't get on with those. But the solos and the trios I really liked. So when it came to getting a new set of speakers for my new studio, I went through a few and got onto focal. There's a video of what I said about these speakers before. There's a review. The tweeter's really nice. They said that these are the right size for my room. They go super low to about 22 hertz or something when I've measured them. So I can hear loads of sub, which is great. You need that for modern music. You know, it's very hard to master. If you're thinking of being a mastering engineer, you need full range speakers. You can't master on stuff that's going down to 40 hertz. You need to be able to hear what's going on below so you can adjust that, because that makes a big difference to what's going on at the top range of the sound. So I need full range speakers, beautiful hi-fi speakers. These are amazing. I've got some name amps that go with them. Everything sounds really smooth, crystal clear. They go really high. The beryllium tweeter is top notch. It's lovely sound, really smooth, silky smooth, really clear in the tops. Mids are great, and the low end's really solid and tight. So for me as mastering engineer, these are great for the moment. I like them. Who knows, but I think they look cool. Do you? Let me know in the comments. Okay, next one is from I'm Vinville. Hi Streaky, did you start out as mastering engineer? I know a lot of mixing engineers started out as musicians themselves and just found out they were better at mixing and liked it more. What's your story? Okay, I'll try and keep this brief. I won't give you my life story, but I was basically a DJ when when I say DJ, I was kind of sort of acid house times, very early on DJing, not like superstar DJs now, and I used to do like disco DJing and stuff. And then I was in bands, I was a singer in a band. So I was really into music, and I was really into kind of fine tuning stuff and tweaking and things. So, and when I looked at studios, I just saw a big mixing desk and thought, yeah, I need to be there. That's my kind of place. It just sort of really resonated with me. I just wanted to be in a studio. So this is pre-internet. This is sort of early 90s. So I hand wrote loads of letters. Every 3 months, I would send a batch of letters to the studios. I found an old showcase directory at somewhere I was temping. So I went through that, got my list of all the different studios, just wrote off all the time, just, you know, over the period of 3 months, it was just every week, just writing letter after letter. And then finally, I broke through. I think today, though, it's a great thing to do still, just write some letters, because people, you know, don't get letters anymore. If someone sends me a letter and it's got a little thing, that's much more interesting than getting an email. It shows that you're really keen and willing. So yeah, it's a good tip still. But I got a letter back from Battery Studios in Willesden. At the time, that was part of Jive and part of Zomba, the bigger group. So Jive Records had massive like hip hop artists and dance artists and pop people. And then they had Silvertone, which is another record label, and they had loads of different things there. And it was Battery Studios was part of that. And so it was great because I went in for an interview, didn't really understand what they were talking about. Bob, the manager, who was a really great guy, he spoke a lot and spoke at me, and I just sort of nodded and smiled and, you know, ended up getting the job. So it changed my life at the time. I was so excited, so happy, because I was working in kind of jobs, which is great. If you ever get into something that you really enjoy after being in something you hate, it was just life-changing for me at the time. I absolutely loved it. I got in there doing CD mastering, didn't know what that was. I was editing a lot of stuff with sort of old editing things like tape and digital editors in the early days. I would get to work on stuff from the record label. I really got in with the A&R people across at the record label. They became my friends, and, you know, I was young, so I was hanging out a lot, networking as you need to do, and that kind of built up my contacts. And in the studio had really good people coming in. So, for example, one of the first tracks I mastered was Return of the Mac by Mark Morrison, and Mark Morrison was in the studio doing stuff. So he came in my room, got chatting, I did stuff for him. You know, it was nothing at the time. Now it's still a record that's around, so that's quite cool. Loads of stuff like that. So it was all kind of happen chance, people coming in, and then from there I really got into sound, and then I wanted to know how to cut vinyl. So then I went to Sound Masters, where Kevin Metcalf was like the top cutting guy at the time in the late 80s, 90s and stuff. Look him up. Cut everything from David Bowie to all sorts of stuff, Underworld and all this. So I learned how to cut vinyl from him. So that was amazing. I've worked with him for sort of 10 years or something. And then I've gone on and worked at Metropolis, and then, you know, learned from all the guys at Metropolis and done that. And now I've got my own place. So that's kind of the story as it goes. But yeah, it was just the fact I really wanted to get in and tweak some stuff. So it wasn't the fact that I was in a band, but it wasn't that simple. And it was in the earlier days where there wasn't as many smaller studios, but more bigger studios, but it's still as hard to get into. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. Okay, next one is from Dry Desert. Is lobster pasta the posh alternative to fish and chips? Okay, this goes back to a question from last week where I said my favourite food was lobster pasta. It's actually lobster linguine, so let's get it completely right. And I guess it is kind of posh. It's posher fish, I guess, and posher carbs. So yeah, it is the posher fish and chips. This next one's from White Heat. He says, "Hi Streaky, if you could have one master bus compressor for mixing, what would it be? Many choices, I can't decide. VCA like the Teglia Cream, SSL, Vary, Mu, etc. Thanks." So okay, so I really like the Teglia Cream that you mentioned. I think it's cool. It's got a kind of pool techie EQ on it. It's got a SSL style compressor, so you can have those before and after. So as a finishing box, it's really nice. It adds, you know, the top end on it's super smooth. It's got a really nice warm low end. So you can do that, punch it into the SSL compressor. I think SSL compressors I would always want on my mix bus if I was out the box, just because it's that sound, you know, it's that kind of gluey sound. So it's really helpful. I would also suggest something like, if you want something that's more tubey, go for an Avalon 747. That's an amazing bit of kit because it's, again, got an EQ on it, so it's quite versatile from that point of view. It's got some sidechain stuff, so you can really like get into the tops or the bottom. I would probably go for something like that. I think if you want to start getting into more creamier stuff, you want to be looking at Verimuse or some kind of like Fairchild compressor. But I think they're kind of really, if you want to really add some tube style, and I don't know if you need that for every mix. So something that's a little bit more versatile, probably the Teglia Cream is a good option. It's not too pricey. Yeah, definitely give that a go. The one thing I would say though is if you are going out of the box, you've got to make sure that you've got a really high-end A to D, because there's no point in you going out of the box to trying to get some analog warmth, then all you're doing is adding a load of noise and a load of kind of information that you don't actually want. You want to be coming back into the box as clean as possible. So you want to make sure your leads are really clean and short, and you want to make sure that your A to D is a really high quality one. You need to spend a few thousand on an A to D, because don't bother coming out if you're just coming out for one box. I don't know if it's going to add enough flavour and enough tone that you couldn't get from maybe some kind of saturation plug-in. But, you know, obviously I'm out of the box, and that's why I would suggest, yes, come out of the box. But I would get something that you need to make sure that your chain when you come out is super clean, so you haven't got extra noise, extra hiss, extra hum, whatever, you know. So yeah, make sure you've got that covered before you start coming out of the box and adding more flavours and trying more stuff. Okay, so next question is from Mikey0303. Now he's a DJ. It's a big question, so I'm just going to run through it because I do remember seeing it online. So he's planning on getting a hardware compressor to put after the decks before the PA system that he's working on. Now, I can't get my head around that. I don't know if that's a thing, but I personally, as a mastering engineer, my suggestion would be to, before you go out DJing, make sure that you've limited all the tracks that you've got so that they're all kind of sitting at the same RMS levels, so that you basically, when you're going to mix, you're just worrying about mixing, and you know that your levels are going out super loud, you know, with the RMS say at about minus 6, something like that, maybe, like really push it so they're hitting hard on the limiters, but they're not kind of changing the sound of the actual tracks too much. And I would do that so that you know all your tracks are at a similar level, so when you're mixing you can have everything at full levels. They're always going to have a limiter on the PA system in a lot of clubs and a lot of places, so you want to basically make sure that that limiter is only going to do the same for every single track. So it's kind of, you don't want that limiter going up and down. So it's the same as what used to happen with a broadcast limiter when you're mastering for radio. That's why a lot of pop stuff is really hitting hard on the limiters, because they don't want the broadcast limiter at the radio station to be doing any of the work. You want to know that that mastered track is how it's going to be played out on the radio. So what you're kind of doing is trying to get it as loud as possible so that when it hits the broadcast limiter, it doesn't start using that limiter to suck, because they don't care. They just want to make sure that you're not going over certain levels, so they don't care how your track sounds. So if you've got loads of bass that's pumping and you haven't limited it properly, that bass is going to start sucking down the top end on the broadcast limiter. So that's why everybody puts limiters on things and smashes things to a certain level that are going to radio. So it's like a radio sound, and that's become the sound. So that's kind of the same principle as I'm saying for when you're doing your DJing. Why would you want to then be tweaking a compressor for every track that you're going on? You've got so much to think about of like how you're mixing and what track's coming on next. I would be saying, get your tracks right before you go out DJing. Don't start second guessing the limiters and stuff of the venue you're playing, because that venue, you don't know what they're doing and you don't know what levels they're playing at, so you don't know what you're doing, and you're going to have to change your compression settings for every single track that comes out. And do you really want the track to sound different than what the artist did? I mean, yeah, you're going to do filters and stuff when you're mixing to kind of drop the bass in and out and things like that, so just get on with that. Don't worry about how loud it's going to be. Get that right first before you go out. So I hope that's explained it. If there is a reason why you do that, please tell me in the comments. I'd love to know. As an ex-DJ, I would love to know exactly what's happening now and why that would be a thing. Technically, I can't understand why, as I've just explained, but if there is a reason, I really want to know, so let me know. So that's the Q&A for Friday. Thanks for watching. If you would like to master with me, there is a code below for making it this far. Thank you for making it this far. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday with another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.